Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the
Hello and welcome to Movies vs. Capitalism, an anti-capitalist movie podcast. I'm Rivka.
And I'm Frank. And happy Academy Awards week to you, Rivka. Did you celebrate? Did you observe?
I was I'm a bad actor. Did not observe.
I mean, honestly, you're more of a bad podcast host, but
I really I did try. I knew it was happening and I tried. I turned it on and I was like, I can't fucking do it. I'm so fucking bored.
That's fair. It was.
There's also, I was like, I got White Lotus, I got Severance, I got Survivor. I have just all of a sudden.
Damn, that's right. I forgot that Survivor
Love is
came
Blind,
back.
The Baldwins, Hilaria,
Wow.
and Alex, new reality show with 7 kids, 4 dogs, 4 cats, and he's going to trial. There was just a lot of other things. I was like, I can't sit through this. I gotta watch.
That's fair. It was a nearly 4-hour telecast. And I was one of the many people who tried to watch it on the Hulu streaming service, only to discover that it didn't fucking work for like the first hour and a half. Did you hear about any of this?
No, tell me.
Oh my God. Yeah. So for the first time ever, it was streamed simultaneously on it was broadcast on ABC and then streamed on Hulu. But for the first hour and a half, almost 2 hours of the telecast, did not work on Hulu. Hulu was just like, oops, sorry, can't play, don't know what happened. And then not only that, at the end of the telecast, so it finally came back on, but then at the end of the telecast, right before Best Actress, Hulu was like, this live event has ended. And it just stopped.
God.
It just stopped. It was like, the live event ended. Sorry, it's over. It already finished. Didn't you know that it finished? So yeah, Hulu really shit the bed on this one. But I did watch all of the important clips and moments so that we could talk about them today.
Same. Caught up.
Yeah, caught up. So what are your big takeaways from these Academy Awards, these Oscars?
I think the biggest takeaway is like the sort of like the chill of the beginning of like people. It's just like, oh, right. People are going to be very, very, very afraid to say anything. There's like nothing said about Trump.
Oh, yeah. No, nothing really. No,
not a thing.
As far as I saw. Yeah.
I think it was. And so that gave me a little bit of a chill because it felt very like. Yeah, it just felt...
The closest they got was Conan made a joke about Honora doing really well, and he was like, and that's a movie about people standing up to powerful Russians, or something like that. Which, you're right, that's not even calling a thing a thing.
No, when you're like in a country that's in the fascist state, on the collapsing as we speak, and the artists, the culture makers are... You know, I mean, and I'm scared or not. I'm going to assume mostly scared.
Mostly scared, yeah.
Also, I don't know who. I'm like trying to think who would I have expected it from. I mean, it was also just I guess my bigger takeaway was like, I just think I haven't seen, let's be honest, I haven't seen the 3 movies I wanted to see. I still haven't made it to see The Brutalist because... It's a brutally long movie, and I hear it's really good, and I would enjoy it, and I want to see it in theaters. I have the SAG screener. Sounds extra brutal to, like, watch it alone in bed. Take my own intermission. I haven't seen I'm Still Here, which won for Best Foreign Picture, which people have written into us. We know. We hear that's, like, the most, like, a deeply political film. Gotta see it. Looks amazing. And... I didn't see No Other Land, which was the political moment of the evening.
That was, and I want to get to that. As of Sunday night, they were the only documentary, one of the only films nominated for an Oscar that could not secure distribution because American distribution companies do not want to touch that film.
Yeah.
So actually, we could start there because that was, I'd say, the highlight of the night.
Yeah.
in terms of something political taking place. Yeah, so the documentary Know Their Land, which was about settler violence and the displacement of Palestinian people in the West Bank and in a village in the West Bank, won Best Documentary Feature. And the filmmakers, and it was a collective of both Israeli and Palestinian filmmakers who made the film. And their speech was incredibly powerful. We can maybe clip in a piece of the speech here.
We made this film, Palestinians and Israelis, because together our voices are stronger. We see each other. The atrocious destruction of Gaza and its people, which must end. The Israeli hostages brutally taken in the crime of October 7th, which must be freed. When I look at Bassel, I see my brother, but we are unequal. We live in a regime where I am free under civilian law, and Bassel is under military laws that destroy his life and he cannot control. There is a different path, a political solution without ethnic supremacy, with national rights for both of our people. And I have to say, as I am here, the foreign policy in this country is helping to block this path.
And I mean, talk about calling a thing, you know, Yuval going up there and saying, like, to be honest, while I'm here, like, the foreign policy of this country is a huge reason why there is not peace. Just flat out fucking saying it. Yeah, it was, it's really sad that we need to look to places like the Oscars for someone to speak out or like have a platform to speak out, since Hollywood has just been so deafeningly silent on this issue for such a long time. But it was good. It was heartening to see.
Yeah, and I guess as you're saying that, I'm thinking about the thing that's kind of great about the speeches is, like, unlike an event like the Super Bowl, where we know lawyers, like, you know, you're like, people knew what Kendrick was going to be up to before televising the revolution. Like, it was checked by lawyers. Corporate was in on it. Except for obviously some of the spontaneous stuff that later got cut. But, like, speeches, no one's checking your little paper before you go up. No one's like, hey, Mikey Madison, pull that little sheet out. I got to see it. Right? Yeah. It's the only checks and balances are actually, like, the pressure of, obviously, we know, like, the pressure of the industry, of the free market in which all of the actors are, like, they're, you know, trying to sell themselves in. So there's that pressure of, like, if I stand up, what will the consequences be? Now, and now in a fascist state, there's added pressures, but it's still, like, really brave, but it's still, like, it still is, like, I think that's what's the potential of, like, what you can say. It is, like, if you win, you get a fucking microphone that's like, you get to say whatever the fuck you want to say. Yeah. And it's amazing, I will say. What we can get, I mean, this is beside the point. But, like, in contrast, I guess it's not beside the point, like, what some people did choose to say and go on and on and on.
Oh my God, Jesus Christ.
Do you think and we're talking about Adrian Brody's speech, which I just heard about the length of, same with the freaking Brutalist. Like, you hear about the length of the movie before you see the movie, and, like, the length of the speech. That was the last one I watched because people were just like, it's so long, this speech. And it was I just found out it is the longest Oscar acceptance speech of all time. It was, and yeah, it was a wild speech. So no, thinking about, like, you have this chance to say anything. It's a lot of power. And that was just like, wow, interesting choice. Interesting. Yeah, started off by talking about how difficult it was for him after he won his first Academy Award. And I was so confused. I was like, was it? Did you disappear and we didn't know and clocked it? Because I'm pretty sure I saw you on Succession. Yeah. He's been coming back. I mean, he's always been working on, like, Wes Anderson movies. He's worked pretty consistently. Sure you've been the fuck around, so. Yeah, he's been the fuck around for sure. I guess just didn't have, I don't know. Just not winning, like, Oscars consistently. The astronomical A-list career that he envisioned for himself. I was so confused. First needed to say that, you know, like, this can all just go away at a moment's notice. It's like, my dude, I'm pretty sure you're fucking rich. Like, like, chill. And then he closed the speech, and this really rubbed me the wrong way, closed the speech with just such a hollow entreaty to, you know, let's love and not hate. Y'all, guys, things are tough right now.
It's all about love and not hate.
We'll be seeing more and more and more of that. That's going to be...
And that says nothing. It says absolutely nothing about anything. It does not name a culprit. It does not name a threat or a villain. And yeah, I'm so over these hollow ass gestures. I mean, we could talk about the fucking Democratic response and to Trump's speech last night, but like it's the same. It's all part of the same thing. Where it's like, yeah, the Democrats can show up to Trump's speech wearing pink. Cool. What does that fucking do? Doesn't do a single thing.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, I don't know that even people. It was so vague that it was like not even. And then to stop them and be like, stop the music. I've been here before. Okay, stop the music.
My God.
I was like, oh, maybe something good is coming. Maybe that.
No, I just want to go on about how it's been really difficult for me. And, you know, we're artists. That's the most important thing. And also, like, make sure you love each other.
On the contrary, another artist who, like, you know, Mikey Madison, great speech, to the point. Did its job. Nothing revolutionary, except did at least like, I think, spoke to the themes of the film. Had stood in solidarity with the sex worker community. Like, that was great. And didn't have to frickin' go over time. I mean, go over time if you're going to say something that needs to... I'm down with that. But, like, to just... Anyways.
I thought yes to what you're saying about Mikey Madison. I was very happy for Honora, just overall. Sean Baker also broke a record as the first director to win 4 Oscars for a single film. Because he wrote, edited... directed and produced.
And they were all so happy and so overjoyed, and that was all great. I will say, watching it, I was like, wow. Because we did, if you missed our Honora, you should listen to our episode to hear our full feelings and take. I think
we just unlocked it.
We just unlocked it. I think even further from it, I was just kind of like, not amazing. I mean, again, I haven't seen I'm Still Here, which I hear is amazing. But of all of them, I was like, kind of came down and I was like, I don't.
And I did. I loved Honora. Yeah. So to each their own. Last thing I'll say about Adrian Brody is I think it's very funny that he made this whole to-do about, like, this can all just go away, guys. And I'm pretty sure after that speech, everyone was probably like, I don't want to fucking work with that guy.
Probably not, honestly.
Probably not.
Probably not. I mean, so talented. That's what you're just like, it's so talented. And then, anyways, the gum also. The throwing of the gum. How'd you feel about that?
Oh, that's right. I didn't.
I get it. I would feel like I would be in that situation, what I don't get is like just being so unaware of the optics of like throwing your gum at your female partner as you're just like, I don't know, hold it.
Swallow it. Yeah. Honestly, I forgot about the gum moment because the speech then took place.
I feel like the gum set up the speech very, very well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you watch any of Adrian Brody's Instagram posts, you understand. You get who this guy is. It's just like, if you ever watched any of his...
Yeah. Well, so, okay.
He's always just walking down the street and is just like, what's up, guys?
Adrian Brody
still here.
And Timothy Chalamet, we all went to the same high school. And we shared acting teachers, but also like there is a vibe of it that I like. There's a certain vibe that I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm more forgiving because I just feel like I'm like, it's that dude walking down the halls of high school, but it still feels very like, yeah.
The self-importance of some actors specifically, although I guess it's for all creatives, is something that I always butted up against. I remember, I think Viola Davis gave a speech a few years ago where she said, like, we actors have the most important job on the planet, something to that effect. And I was like, Viola Davis, come on. No, you fucking don't. Come on. Like, there's so many other people doing so much more important things than being paid a lot of money to act in movies.
We don't know the context. I love me Viola, but I get what you're saying.
I love Viola Davis, and I love actors and film. That's why we have this podcast. You know, there is incredible work that gets done in the medium of film. There are minds that are changed, influenced, by film. It does have immense power. It is like culturally totemic, especially here in the United States. But I don't know. Sometimes an actor will just talk and I'll be like, you fucking think that you are the most important person on planet Earth. And I hate that.
That was that speech. That was like, And I could understand the human, like, getting, I don't know. There's a human part of it where I'm like, I could see getting wrapped up. It's just unfortunate. I'm like, it's unfortunate. That was not good.
Not great. Not great. Yeah, overall, an okay Oscars. Happy with the winners. I feel like this is our conversation every year. It's just, it's the Oscars. It's a bunch of rich people handing trophies to each other. But,
well, and campaigning, I mean, no, it's like you're watching something that you know is rigged, that's been campaigned and decided, the amount of money, the amount of industry that goes into deciding. It's not just a bunch of people watching a movie voting based on how they feel. There's huge campaigns. Like, it's insane.
No Other Land winning being the highlight of the night.
For sure.
For sure.
That's that.
That's the 2025 Academy Awards, the 97th, hosted by Conan O'Brien. All right, let's get to... didn't even talk about Conan. He was fine. All right, let's get to our conversation today about Monsters, Inc. But before we do, we just want to remind our audience that we do not sell ads on this show. We rely on community support. So if you'd like to do that, you can subscribe to our Patreon account.
That's right. And it's just $5 a month. $5 a month. I mean, there's very little you can get for $5 a month these days. And for $5, you get access to our new bonus episodes, but also our entire back catalog, which has some really good stuff. And, we're a little bit more loosey-goosey there. So
even more loose than this just was, if you can imagine that.
You might want to check it out. If you do want to check it out, our Patreon link is in the episode description in your podcast player at mvcpod.com. And please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast player so you don't miss new episodes, and also more people can find us.
Also, a reminder that we donate our ad space. So if you're part of a leftist or progressive organization, you would like to run an ad with us, you can just email us at moviesvscapitalism@gmail.com.
All right, we are going to take a quick break, but we will be right back with Cassie Willson to discuss Monsters, Inc.
Hey everyone, it's Frank here. So after the devastating wildfires in Los Angeles, Rivka and I just wanted to take a moment in this mid-roll spot to direct you to some online resources if you would like to contribute to the relief effort. Honestly, there are so many different organizations doing incredible grassroots organizing on the ground. It would be impossible to name all of them, but the Mutual Aid Los Angeles Network has done an incredible job of putting together a massive list of all of the different places where you can help out. And you can find that list by going to mutualaidla.org. That's mutualaidla.org. They have a bunch of different opportunities from donating to volunteering. If you're able to help out in any way, this is going to be a long recovery for the people affected by these fires in LA. All right, everyone, stay safe. And now back to the show.
So we are very excited to be joined on the podcast today by Cassie Willson. Cassie is a comedian and content creator based in Brooklyn. She performs musical comedy all around New York City, and her content touches on politics, current events, and social commentary. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me. That was an awesome bio. And who wrote that, would you say? That would be me. Really weird to write your own bio, I would say.
I thought it was good. I thought it got everything, your entire identity, encapsulated your entire life, really.
Right. That's all you need to know.
Succinct little blurb that also was selling you as a commodity.
Right. I only exist to be consumed, so I'm glad that you picked up on that.
Cassie, so some of our listeners may have seen your work on the internet. That's how I was introduced to you. Big fan of the videos that you make, your commentary, as you mentioned in your bio. There are very few creators, I feel, that can make a very salient political point while also remaining very funny. And you are, I think, extremely good at it. And a little bit of background for how this happened. I ran into you at an event in New York, and I was like, fuck it, I'm going to be that asshole. And walked right up to you.
No, you weren't being an asshole. You were being normal. So that was good.
Sure. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
No worries. You guys just said a bunch of nice stuff about me. So now I'm feeling like I was like, oh no, they're being too nice.
You don't have to.
Okay.
We have another guest, a guy named Harvey, who says really nice things about us.
Okay,
so-
great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So Frank was an asshole?
No, he was being normal. It was good.
No. But Cassie, before we get into the movie, I would like to know, like, when did you have the political evolution where you started to want to make content like that was centered around politics? Did you start as like, I'm just doing goofy comedy shit, and then like us got radicalized and you were like, oh, this is the thing I have to talk about now?
Kind of. I would say, well, yeah, I think like it's taken me some time to, oh, sorry, I have a radiator that's absolutely like wailing in the background, but that's
Actually,
NYC,
can't
baby.
hear it.
Okay,
I actually
great.
can't hear it.
Great. Then no, I don't. It's all good. I think like, yeah, for a couple years, I was just making content that I thought was funny, like doing little bits, little sketches, parodies, whatever. And then post-election this past year, I don't know, I had this feeling of like, okay, I'm going to start talking about things that I care about and start infusing my actual like opinions and perspective into my content. That paired with like the notion that there needs to be more kind of like lefty content creators, influencers, voices, whatever. And so I was kind of like, all right, let me just lean in, because the right has so many people like that who indoctrinate people very easily. And so I'm kind of like, I kind of have, I think, formed this little niche for myself where it's like, I'm talking about current events. Maybe I'm just skewing something from my perspective, some kind of comedic lens, or even if it's not like laugh out loud hilarious, at least the format is something that is recognizable as like an internet sketch, but still like palatable, and nothing is like, I'm not talking about anything like crazy. Nothing that I'm saying is like absolutely insane. So it's kind of like, digestible to people as well. So yeah, it's just a natural thing that happened the past few months.
I think Riv and I both relate to that. A little background on us. We met at theater school.
Oh,
so,
there we go.
Yep.
Hell yeah. Mm-hmm. I should have guessed, honestly.
Did you two go to theater school, Cassie?
I was a music major at Wesleyan University, a very lefty, crunchy place. But yeah, music major, but I did I would have minored in theater, except then they would have made me take like lighting design and stuff, so I just took a bunch of acting classes instead. Didn't want to do that.
Smart.
And you were like,
Yeah.
I don't want any practical
I
skills.
literally don't want that at all. At all. No interest. I just want to be on the stage, baby. Give me attention. That was my vibe.
As it was for all of us.
Yeah.
But you chose a movie for us today that I was absolutely thrilled to talk about. So
Oh, yeah.
you chose Monsters, Inc.
Let's go.
2001, directed by Pete Docter, David Silverman, and Lee Unkrich, with a story by Pete Docter, Jill Colton, Jeff Pigeon, Ralph Eggleston, and a screenplay by Andrew Stanton and Daniel Gerson. A lot of cooks.
I could have told you that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you had that all coming.
Yeah, I got that off the dome. I could have just fired that off real easy.
This film stars John Goodman, Billy Crystal, Steve Buscemi, Jennifer Tilly, and James Coburn. The budget was $115 million.
Damn.
It's back in the day when it cost a shit ton of money to make these movies. I mean, it's still expensive, but you know what? They did fine. Grossed $579 million worldwide.
I'm like 400 million of that gross income, so that tracks. I love this movie so much.
And if you've never seen this movie, we will be spoiling it. But a brief synopsis. This is the story of Sully and Mike, two monsters whose job is to enact violent resource extraction from the vulnerable population of human children. But when a cute little human toddler named Boo follows Sully into the monster world, it throws the entire monster society into panic due to racist anti-child propaganda. Sully and Mike must then find a way to return Boo home as they simultaneously uncover an evil plot that goes all the way to the top of the energy monopoly that is Monsters, Inc.
You pulled that from Disney, right? That's their...
Yeah, that was the official
Yeah, that's the
Disney
official.
synopsis. Yeah. If you go on Disney Plus, that's what it says in the little scroll there.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so some historical context. This was released on November 23rd, 2001. Other movies that we've covered from this year. Wow. Josie and the Pussycats, Zoolander,
Banger.
and Rat Race. I mean,
Wow.
what a vibe.
What a year for movies.
2001. Okay.
A
Many
great
firsts.
Nothing bad happened that year, famously.
Not a single thing. Not a single thing.
Many firsts in big franchises are released this year, including the first Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and Fast and the Furious. Damn. Okay.
We didn't know how good we had it.
Yeah,
We had no
genuinely.
idea. Just still in the remakes of all. Like, I feel like we're just remaking 2001.
Literally,
It's like what
we're
it is.
trying to harken back to that year all the time.
That January, George W. Bush was inaugurated as the 43rd President of the United States. In January, the U.S. Federal Trade Commission approves the merger of America Online and Time Warner to form AOL Time Warner. In April, the musical The Producers by Mel Brooks, starring Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick, opens on Broadway at the St. James Theater. And in June, the Economic Growth and Tax Relief Reconciliation Act of 2001 is signed into law by U.S. President George W. Bush, the first of a series of acts which becomes known as the Bush tax cuts. On September 10th, Donald Rumsfeld...
Yep. Important.
Not even there yet. Donald Rumsfeld gives a speech regarding $2.3 trillion in Pentagon spending that cannot be accounted for, identifying the bureaucratic processes
Forgot
of the
about that.
Pentagon as the biggest threat to
Whoopsie.
America.
Yep. And he maintained that position for the rest
Where
of the
did
year.
it go? We don't know, you guys. We have no idea.
And then on September 11th, there are the terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. And in October, the first iPod was released by
You can't say that in the same sentence. That can't be a comma and in October.
It's chronological. This is a chronological. So we had to
I think
end with
that
the release of
wraps
the
it up.
iPod.
That's wild.
Yeah,
2001. Are you kidding me?
What a year. What a year.
So, Cassie, the first thing we start the conversation with, we ask our guest, why did you choose this movie to talk about on this podcast?
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I was thinking about it, and okay, so this came out in what month in 2001? Do you guys know?
November.
Okay, great. So I was 6 years old when this movie came out. Yeah, I'll age myself. That's fine, people. I
okay,
am
I
a
was
woman
13.
who says her age. Okay, perfect. Yeah, this movie was 6. This movie was 0. I was 6 when this movie came out, and so I was like the exact perfect audience for this movie when it came out. I may have seen this in theaters with my family. I'm not sure, but I've seen this movie approximately 700,000 times, and it does hold up. Like, it's one of those, amazing Pixar films that are great for someone of any age. Like, my parents loved this movie. In my family, this is such a quotable film. There's so many quotes from this movie that we are dishing out on the daily. So this movie is like very near and dear to me. And I had never really watched it from like an anti-capitalist perspective. So I was like, ooh, this will be a fun way to watch a movie that I've seen so many times through a new lens. I was really close to suggesting Camp Rock just because I really wanted to make you guys watch Camp Rock. But
I don't know Camp Rock.
Yeah.
Oh, I would have loved that. But next we'll have you back.
2008. It's a little DCOM starring Demi Lovato and the Jonas Brothers. You may be familiar.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, 2008, arguably actually the best year for film because you have Camp Rock and you have Twilight.
Wow.
Come on.
Wow.
That's kind of my vibe with movies, but no. So yeah, I was like, let me go easy on him, and we'll do Monsters Inc. instead.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries.
I don't know how many listeners we would have gotten for the Camp Rock episode.
You might be surprised.
Viral hit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm
speak
I'm
for yourself,
sorry.
buddy. That is
I guess I am speaking for myself. Wow. Yes, I agree with you. Everything you said about this movie, the way it holds up, it stands the test of time. I was 13 when this came out, so starting to get to that age where I was like, I don't know about Disney movies anymore, but I remember seeing this movie in theaters and just being like emotionally walloped by it by the end. And I was like, I guess I am still a little boy. And this and A Bug's Life, I think, are my two favorite Pixar movies, just because of the time at the age that I was when they came out. I love these movies so much. And yeah, the politics of this movie are pretty good. Pretty good, I would say. But we can dig into it. Riv, did you love Monsters Inc. too?
This was my first time seeing it.
Whoa!
Yeah, because I was also 13, Frank, and I was too cool to go
Wow.
to movies to see.
Oh my god, I'm so glad I chose it then. Hell yeah.
Cartoon. And I guess I just yeah, of all the babysitting and all of that, we just missed Monsters Inc. So I got the joy of just, but Tommy, my partner, was like, loved, ready to sit down. Like he didn't miss this, and he would have been older than me. So it's not, I think it's not only that I was 13, but also like, I just don't come from like my mom wasn't going to take me to see it. I don't think friends, I don't have siblings. So there was not like it would have been a hard way.
Sometimes you just miss one,
Sometimes you just miss. Yeah. But then you get to watch it as an adult.
Yeah.
And it was just, I mean, what a great movie. It was. I actually was surprised how many people worked on the story, and that it turned out that like such a good story. Like sometimes many a cook makes it okay because it's like just a really great. I was, you're surprised, you're overwhelmed with emotion. I mean, it gives you all the things that you want to have happen, and hilarious, so good,
Very funny. A lot
politics,
of the bits.
I will get into. I don't know if I would say great politics.
Oh,
But we'll get into it.
Okay, well, we'll be
All
the
right.
judge of that.
We have some
will-
dissent among us.
There might be some dissent. I hate to say it, but I was like, I think to start the conversation off, I think as soon as that little girl laughed and the lights went off, I was like, these motherfuckers are going to commodify laughter. They're going to do it.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Wait, this is so fun.
I felt it immediately, and I was like, it's fine. And then for a moment, I was like, maybe they won't. Because they hold off for a while, and then they do. But that was one thing. There's so many things to unpack, but I loved it. It was so, I can't wait. Cassie, I'm pregnant. I can't wait. I was like, oh, this is one that like you start watching kids movies like where you're like, what propaganda will I let in? Like, what am I gonna? And this is one that like for sure. You could also, Cassie, I feel like you could snag like an older Boo. Like an older Boo movie. Like you could play Boo in the future.
I'm playing Boo. Yeah. Totally. I agree. Once they make the sequel.
Yeah.
They
They decide to make the
have.
live action sequel.
I'm a shoo-in.
How have they not done
Get
that?
me in that room. Where's my self-tape for Boo? Yeah, totally agree.
They did do a prequel.
They did do a prequel. Yeah.
Monsters University, which is
It's
decent.
okay. Yeah.
But I hope in the sequel, like live action where you're playing it, Cassie, Boo never, for some reason, Boo just never learns to speak in any other language than like,
Yeah, baby
speaks.
gibberish. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I was reading the Wikipedia of this movie, and like I guess the voice of Boo, actually they used like a real toddler and had her like running around. She would be like running around the studio, and so it was hard to get all the sounds, but like it really, like, you can tell that it's a real
That makes
kid,
so much sense.
you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
It does sound so authentic. Yeah.
So authentic. I think it makes a big difference because it is kind of, some adults are really good at it, but you can always tell when it's like adult baby.
Put on. Yeah. Okay. So my first note of this movie, and I was taking notes. I watched with my two roommates and my good friend, and they did not want to hear my anti-capitalist perspective on this movie as we were watching. So they were like, this is going to ruin the experience. And I was like, okie dokie, I will keep this to myself. My roommate said, quote, I hate this. And I was like, cool, you don't have to listen. That's all right. So my first note.
Hated your commentary or hated the movie?
Yeah. Hated my commentary. Everyone loves the movie. Okay, so Mr. Waternoose, he has the thesis up top of like big scarers, right? He goes, okay, and like I can't not do the voice. There's nothing more toxic or deadly than a human child. A single touch could kill you. Okay, so in this way, they're creating fear. They're making the job seem dangerous, and they're dividing the masses to distract from the real enemy. And the children are a vulnerable population who are being exploited for profit, obviously. But the residents of the monster world are being told that this exploitation is necessary to power their world. We scare because we care. Like, the children are othered such that their suffering isn't even seen as exploitation. Like, scaring is like kind of an emotional neutral to the monsters, right? And so that's like the thesis up top. That's the world that they're living in the beginning. So it's like, okay, exploitation right up top. Okay, profit.
Board of directors. Yeah. So clear.
Yeah, the resource extraction narrative in this, I think, is some of its strongest politics for sure. And, watching it through this lens, I was like, oh, scaring is kind of a violent action in a way. You know, it's emotionally violent towards these children. And yeah, all of the anti-child propaganda just like absolutely rang as, I don't know, when a settler colonial state is saying something to its population like, oh, well, these indigenous people, they're actually like violent savages, so we don't even need to care about you know, their well-being, what we're doing to them. In fact, you should hate and fear them.
And if their sock gets on you, we'll blow you up.
Oh, 2319. 2319. I have a whole different note on the 2319. Don't you worry. I was in the weeds of this film.
Yeah, that thesis is absolutely spot on.
Yeah,
where
and
we
then
start.
we have the 2319, which is clearly a scare tactic for the workers, right? Like the real Waternoose, like representing, I guess, like the ruling class in some way. He knows that kids aren't actually dangerous, which becomes clear at the end that he is already aware of this. But they make this big show of bringing in the CDA, not the CDA. Like, they bring them in. They make the kids seem so dangerous so they can like keep controlling the narrative for the workers. Like, because if you you have to have all these like bells and whistles surrounding just how dangerous these kids are. So it's like this huge. It's basically propaganda, is what the CDA is, and the 2319.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Great.
One of my favorite touches about the CDA is how they're all in the yellow suits, but they're all different shapes because they are monsters. Just like the details in this movie, so fun.
God, there's one detail with the CDA. They're tackling poor George in somewhere, and there 3 different CDA monsters jump on top of him. One jumps, the other jumps, and then the third one jumps, but his legs are out first, so he kind of like launches himself and then lands like right on the elbow. It's just such a brilliant little visual detail, and it's like those little details are what make Pixar so amazing. It's like you can almost see the people in the writer's room or the animators like pitching something and making all each other laugh, and that's what ends up in the movie. Like, what if this last dude just like goes legs first? So it's like the intent, like he's intentionally jumping on someone in order to like cause physical harm. Like, that's not helping in any way. So I just
and
love
that shit
those
is why
details.
the $115 million budget is worth it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that is what AI is not going to come up with.
Oh, exactly. Say that.
Not even close. Not even a chance. The other aspect, when we are introduced to the monsters, the scare floor, is the all-time scare record, which is another tool that Waternoose, the capitalist, the ruling class, is using to make his workers compete against one another. So it's that bullshit. You know, we're going to incentivize you to scare harder, scare longer. You know, wake up and do all of your exercises like Sully and Mike are doing. No mention what the all-time scarer gets. Do they get anything? Do they get a cash bonus? Like, is this just a pride thing?
I don't know. It's as my friend put it when we were watching, she was like, they're gamifying the workplace. You know, it's like they have all these perks to incentivize, you know, a little Severance-esque. I don't know if you guys are watching Severance, but you know, when you Yeah, you finish a file, you get a little finger trap or something, and it's like that, like the winning the game is the prize in and of itself, because they haven't yet been taught that like they should be questioning the whole system as a whole.
So it sounds like your friends couldn't help but get in on.
Yeah. Some of them were into it. Well, my friend Lily was into it. She was like very excited to watch it with me, and my roommates were like, "I do not want to hear the analysis of this children's movie." I was like, "Too bad." That's what's happening.
The other thread here at the beginning is that, and this is something I noticed for the first time watching it this time, is that Mike and Sully's complete preoccupation is their job and wanting to break this record and be the best, baddest, top scarers, and how the arc for both of them is to let that shit go, especially for Sully. Because it's like when they have their big blowout fight in the Dark Night of the Soul in the snowman's cave, and Sully's like, I don't care about any of that stuff anymore. And Mike has not yet gotten there yet, where he's like, what do you mean you don't care about any of this stuff anymore?
Actually,
like,
the quote is actually, none of that matters now. Not that I can recite this movie word for word,
so sorry.
but just thought
You're right.
it was important. Yeah, no worries.
We don't do journalism here, but like journalism is appreciated. So
I just have this whole film memorized, so that's the vibe that I'm working off of. From that thread, like something I also noticed for the first time watching this all the way through, which again was the fun part of like watching it through this lens, is Sully is very much like a victim of the gamified workplace and of the patriarchy within the monster world.
Go on.
Thank you. So he's like glorified as this like expert and this big scary guy, you know, so his job kind of like becomes his whole identity. But the whole thing is that like inside he's a really gentle monster, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that I noticed for the first time was he and Mike are talking, and Mike is like, what are you doing tonight? Because Mike and Celia are going to Harryhausen's. Again, not that I know what the restaurant is called or anything like that. And Sully was like, he's like, oh, no plans, might just like work out again. And Mike was like, again, there's more to life than scaring. And it's like Sully works so much that it's become his whole identity. And it also means that he's working so much that his relationships and his quality of life suffer. Like he doesn't have anything else going on besides work. And like, that's depressing. And then of course he goes on a journey.
That's a great point. I didn't pick up on that. That is a great point, that he is especially,
Thank you so much.
how all those patriarchal values creep in, and then and also just that the arc between Mike and Sully becomes like, I mean, the end credits, they have this lovely song together. Like just, it's a love story. It's like a buddy love story between these two monster guys who get kind of like their relationship back as a result of letting some of this stuff go. I don't know how much is let go. I don't know how much is transformed, but we'll get there.
That is, yes, we'll get to the ending. That is where I thought the politics of the movie went off the rails. Also, Cassie, on that point, the first time obviously it's played very clearly in the movie that like the top scarers are all these giant, big, scary monsters, and all of the tech guys are like the little dudes. Again, also playing into this, like, I don't know, patriarchal idea of like the biggest, strongest, toughest. Felt like I was watching a bunch of like NFL players walk through the door.
My roommate also mentioned the NFL. Like that, there's something about like pitting them against each other, gamifying the workplace, like felt very NFL-esque. I haven't pulled on that thread very much, but listeners, you can unpack that one at home if you want.
And then the whole middle of the movie, once Boo comes through the door, I didn't have a lot of like political opinion. Like there was no political observations I was making too much during this section, other than they're starting to love this little girl, and you know the propaganda is starting to melt away as they spend more time with her. Clearly, she is not toxic. They are not dying because of being in her presence. But mostly, I thought it was just like extremely heartfelt and sweet, just watching these two monsters ingratiate themselves to the little girl.
What I thought was remarkable is how little it took to like the lesson of like how much it takes to build these ideologies through propaganda, and how little it takes to like break it down, which I think is a really great point, like great thing for the left, and just like a good thing to acknowledge and remember, because like they spent think about, we don't see it all, but like the media campaigns, right? You said this, the CDA, like all of the shit that goes into like making this entire population believe that like you will die if a human child touches you. And then like it takes one encounter, and like clearly that they're like, no, I got touched, I'm not dead, and I just think that's so important and powerful, because I think sometimes it can feel like we're up against something insurmountable and fake news and what are we gonna do and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, yeah, but like we have the truth and we have to trust how powerful connection and reality and like truth and just talking to one another, which I think, the fucking DNC could learn, like the Democratic Party could learn a lot about, right? It's not about like fighting propaganda with all that your bullshit propaganda. Like go have a conversation, go tell the truth. They haven't figured out how to tell the truth yet. Well, but I loved
the
that.
whole idea of truth has been so undermined, which is we live in the upside down. But a similar note that I had was like when Sully begins realizing that the kid is not dangerous, that is the start of his radicalization, you could argue.
Yeah.
Because like he's realizing that he's been lied to for the benefit of big power and for Monsters Inc. itself, for the big corporation. So it's like everything he's built his identity around and his whole life around has been a lie. And it's like, it reminds me of like, maybe we all have that moment, the common question of like, what radicalized you? It's like it only takes that one little thing to sink in, and then for you to start pulling on that thread and following, where that truth will lead you. I think when I was a teenager, I learned about like lobbying in the NRA and how little it takes for so many lawmakers to be bought out, and that's the reason that we don't have like any like semblance of gun control in this country. Like that, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like that's, you've let yourself be bought out by fucking $60,000 from the NRA for your fucking re-election campaign, you know, whatever it is. It's like, that is the price that you have put on human lives. Like, so not to get carried away, but like, it's just, it only takes one like little fact to like really hit you. And so for Sully going, Mike, I don't think that kid is dangerous. Like that's the start of his whole unraveling the big secret of this whole movie.
Yes. And the fact that it is rooted in, I was going to say the human interaction, the monster to human interaction of just spending time with this cute little baby. And Riv, you're so right. I think both left and right, but especially, maybe not especially, but everyone can learn so much more by just having a fucking conversation with someone that they don't understand or they don't agree with. And something I've been really trying to impress upon friends, family, on who would identify more as liberal is I've been hearing a lot of the sentiment of, you know, well, fuck all Trump voters, fuck them all. I don't ever want to talk to them. If you voted for him, I hate you forever. Goodbye. Right. And that's just so unproductive and unhelpful. Like obviously there are the MAGA cultists, but there's also just a lot of people who are like, I'm politically uninformed and misinformed, and I don't follow the news, so I don't fucking know and just a little bit of actual interaction can do so much. Yeah,
I mean, you see the people in the Bronx. Yeah, you see all those interviews with people in the Bronx who voted for Trump, and you're like, you know, we don't the propaganda on our side of like what a Trump supporter is and like can't touch them, I'll turn toxic and racist and something bad'll happen is the same shit. It's like just as problematic when you're trying to get the workers of the world to fucking unite and like actually take down this capitalist class.
It really can just like, I mean, I don't like, I understand people not having the energy or the bandwidth to like interact with like a Trump voter, and at the same time, like that's exactly what they want to happen. Like that's what the ruling class wants, is like for us not to be able to stand one another. And so like if we can all be like Sully and meet Abu and realize I'm losing the thread. I don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah, like it really is just like to give someone humanity.
And what's great about Sully is Sully never apologizes for it.
Yeah.
Like true. Once it starts, it just kind of goes through, and like Mike kind of has to get on board and like goes through his whole journey of like figuring it out, but Sully's never like thrown. And I think that's like also why it's so brilliant that it was this young child. Like there is this truth and emotional spirit that he's just touched by that's just like can't be fucked with.
Yeah, she's not even like verbal. I mean, she's, you know, probably supposed to be like, you know, between 15 and 18 months old or whatever, you know, can say like a couple words, but that's it. And yeah, I mean, like his relationship with the kid is, you know, I think less about politics and more about like showing, you know, this like vulnerability and innocence of like kind of becoming a first time parent, you know, and that's what is so touching about this film. But it's like, yeah, he is so like so moved by the innocence of her spirit. Like you said, it's like she doesn't literally cannot talk to him. And so it's like he's picking up on all these other things and how like gentle she is just like at her core.
And then the moment
she's a little baby.
She's a little baby, exactly.
But then the moment when, I mean, that's the part that got me emotionally, like, I'm sure everyone. But when he's finally forced to like do the scare. Mm-hmm. And he is very scary.
Yeah.
Oh, during the demo, yeah.
During the demo, and she sees it, like that was just like, and everything transforms for her. Oh, I don't know. Uh-huh. There's so many levels to that.
Heartbreaking.
But like, heartbreaking. Like that idea of like, I don't know, just as a child when you see the adult be imperfect or just have those moments, like how just like on a core level disturbing that is. But I guess also if we're pulling like those political angles from it too, it's like when you trust someone and then suddenly there's that flip. Like just how like seeing the possibility of that is part of growing up too, of like people you know, there's a possibility for all sides. It's not always just moral, you know, and that she sees him that way is like, oh,
it's such a gut punch. It's like he, you know, when he's seeing himself in the like screen grabs and seeing her reaction, he, you know, that's his big realization of like, all kids are like Boo on some level, and like he can literally never scare again because of this like deep shame that it gives him to scare this child like that. And it's like I think like up to this point he's still kind of wanted to like separate his work self and his like home self, but you know, realizing that at work this is the only way that he is seen, is like as this like big scary guy, and so it's like he does have to completely separate himself from that identity, and like he is no longer able to like hold both these two truths at the same time. Like at work I'm this big scary guy, and at home I'm this like gentle person. It's like we can't separate the art from the artist anymore, you know. That's what I was saying at the end.
And he's recognized the violence that he has been enacting on these children, and in being ingratiated with this vulnerable little child, like you're saying, it's like, oh, this is the thing that I've been doing this for profit for my entire life. My entire career is just scaring the shit out of these poor little kids.
There's a truth that I think like in our like in the reality of this world where we know monsters, there's not a Monsters Inc. per se, if you believe that.
I don't know.
All good. But
We
like
don't
just
know
how
that there isn't one.
Depends who you ask.
But just that they're like there is a Monsters Inc. in the sense that I do think the weaponization of like this, just the idea of fear on children happened so early, of like it infiltrates parenting as a means of control, you know, of just how often it would be like, okay, well, fear actually, like fear tactics in parenting. And I guess as I'm starting to think about parenting, it's just become so much more relevant of like, yeah, people weaponize that stuff of like, there's a value of like, if a kid is too scared to get out of bed, you get, you know, society functions in a certain way. It's pretty deep. It's scary.
The like, I think his like work self thing, we can see that reflected in, you know, how are we all, like, we all have to function within a capitalistic society. And like, it's almost impossible to find a job where you can like support yourself in some way, but still remain aligned in all your values, you know, like whatever it is. So like, you know, if you have some day job where it's like, you're able to separate yourself, if you're not like a super huge fan of like the work that you're doing, it's like, how much can you do that? And do you reach a point where it's like, if the company you're working for, if you do not believe in their message or what they're creating or what they're contributing to, at some point you gotta step away from it. But then when you do step away, it's like, what are your other options? Like we gotta eat, you know, we gotta pay our rent.
And baby, that's alienation. So then we get into the
We're doing fine, you guys. We're fine. It's all good.
everyone's fine
no
here.
worries.
Highly suggest SSRIs while they are still available before what's his fuck makes them illegal. So then we get into the whole evil plot part, which, you know, is going to be at the core of any movie about an evil business. And we always love seeing it. I love any time, especially in children's movies, where very clearly the filmmakers are like, business guy bad, business guy evil and bad. He does evil thing. And it's a very tropey narrative device, but we love to see it. But the monsters are in an energy crisis. That's the other aspect of this, is that, there's a scare shortage because children are not as easily scared anymore. So we're constantly hearing about this energy crisis. Again, more propaganda coming from Water News.
Can I just ask about that before you get to the next part, since we have our expert on deck?
Yes, that's me.
I'm curious. So the world, this I wanted to know more about. Like, so what is the world of the energy shortage? Is there something outside of like, they're being told that it's because of screams, like, but we don't, that's not necessarily like known why there's an energy shortage per se. As we discover, like, it could be filled by laughs, but like really all we know about this thus far is kind of via the lens of the company. Like, we don't really have any outside resources to like know what's the truth about the energy shortage, right?
Yeah, it's very true. Like we as the viewers, we don't absolutely know that there is a real scream shortage. We do know that that's what Monsters Inc. is telling everybody and is kind of using to motivate their workers to work even harder. I don't think the company knows or the world knows that laughter is more powerful than screams, which we find out at the very end. Or, you know, we're getting hinted at it as like Boo laughs and then the power surges or whatever. But yeah, it's like, we don't exactly know that that is true, but we do know that Sully is a numbtot. You know, he's like, there's a scream shortage. We're walking to work. He's like, we're not taking your car to work. We're just gonna walk and it's gonna be great. The like rolling blackouts expected is what it says on the newspaper, which I again noticed for the first time watching this. So yeah, we don't exactly know that that's true, but we know that that's what they're being told.
There is that one moment on the scare floor early on when one of the monsters comes out of the door and is like, the kid almost touched me. They almost touched me. And then his tech says like, how old was the kid, Cassie? Like he was only
6.
He was only 6. Yeah,
she was only 6. Yeah.
She was. She was only 6, and that's.
Oh gosh.
And that's when we get introduced to the door shredder.
Hey, we got a dead door over here. Out of the way, come, excuse us.
I love the two squeaky voice teens.
Oh my god, they're so good. They're so good. Incredible.
Every time they're on screen, I laughed. I laughed this time every time they're on screen.
Yeah.
It's a killer bit. So there is like the scream shortage, I think, is real-ish. They say like kids are just less scared these days. This is the...
Well, no, I think the scream shortage is real. What I'm saying is we don't know outside, like all of our information about the environmental disaster is based on this company who it benefits them to say it's a scream shortage, right? Because that's what they're selling. But we don't know that outside of this company, there aren't alternatives. I'm just saying. I'm just pointing out how much of even our world in this movie is built by the company itself.
None of us are immune from propaganda. I didn't even think about that. So that's so true.
I mean, it does seem like Monsters, Inc. has a full monopoly on energy distribution in the monster world. We don't even know what the monster government does. Is there one?
There's a monopoly, but then it's so strange because he's so concerned. He's like 3 generations and like he's like very worried about I'm wondering where the worry about like losing, doesn't seem to be so worried about he doesn't, and by him I mean the water noose. He's not worried about the environmental disaster as much as like losing the company, which made me just curious about like, is there someone on his ass? Like, who are there competing companies? Are there alternative energy resources? Like,
yeah,
there is a board, and like it just made me feel like there is competition outside of this company that makes them feel like they're not necessarily in a monopoly. Like there's something to lose. They don't say it, but like it very much felt that way to me. Like there's something else.
The only thing that I can think of to that point is almost at the very end, right before it's like Boo has gone home and Mike and Sully are walking and Mike is like, we did it. I don't know the exact quote amazingly, but at the end he goes, not to mention the angry mob that'll come after us when there's no more power. But hey, at least we had a few laughs. And so it's like does indicate that like this is a real crisis where it's like if there's no screams, there's no power, and only then does it occur to Sully that like, oh wait, what if we try laughs instead, and that solves the crisis.
Yeah, why don't we try green energy?
Literally, exactly, renewable energy. Yeah,
I don't know about that,
sort of.
but...
that, or at least it takes less.
That's why I was diving us down this road, because I think the idea that like commodifying children's laughter, who like you said at the top were clearly extorted resources, right? There's all this extortion of their energy, and just immediately it's like, we'll just take their, like, I get that laughter is better than screams, but like the reality is you're still waking children up in the middle of the night, fucking with their sleep cycles.
Yeah.
Coming
circadian
into,
rhythm
like,
is all off.
You shouldn't fucking be in their bedrooms. Sorry. It's weird. Like, just all of it. Like, there was no questioning of the business plan whatsoever. It was just an immediate exchange. And I guess, like, to me, and maybe this is, like, to me, like, the great, like, thinking beyond even just, like, these systems of, like, let's replace one kind of capitalist power source with another capitalist power source, maintain our board of directors, maintain a company, not think outside of this world at all, was my biggest political issue with the resolution of the film.
Is there a hotline we can call for that? Like, who do we let know about this issue that we have? Let's write to the movie makers. Well, it's a 24-year-old film.
This might come up in the live action sequel.
Yeah, I'll let them know. I'll pass along the notes.
I mean, they are going to make a Monsters, Inc. 2 at some point, like a direct sequel to this one. And I think we need to let them know that all of these questions need to be addressed.
They'll talk to us. They'll hear this pod, and then they'll talk to us about it. They'll get our take.
But I love, the third act of this movie is just fucking believable. The entire door chase through the warehouse.
Yes. Oh, it's so good.
Those are like the things, like you're saying, Cassie, like those little Pixar things where someone was like, what if it's just like a giant, like Indiana Jones sized warehouse just full of doors just flying around and they're just chasing on all the doors, and it's every time it's still magical to me.
It really
It's
is.
so
It gives me
good.
goosebumps. It's so good. I remember when I was watching the movie this like 2 days ago, I was really excited because I didn't remember that part was coming, and then I was like, oh my god, they're kind of like going on a roller coaster in the doors, and like that sequence of ending up and like, you know, all around the world is just so brilliant and like amazing.
Love it. And then they get Boo home, and then I did write down this note because we're talking about this, like, you know, replacing screams with laughs. It's, you could say, a kinder version of capitalism, a gentler
Right.
version, one that actually incorporates this vulnerable population in a positive way. And I wrote down, is this the New Deal of the monster world? You know, because a lot of people, one criticism of the New Deal is that it saved capitalism. You know, a lot of more like accelerationist types will say, if the New Deal hadn't happened, capitalism would have just fucking collapsed in the 30s and 40s already. And the New Deal just, you know, it did prop it up. It created a more vibrant social democracy than we ever had before. But
Having said
capitalism
that,
remained.
Yes. I think the New Deal, that's more kind than I'm willing to give. That's like, that's like a lot. So like Sully and Mike like created the New Deal for the Monsters Inc. world. I don't know. I still think it's like not, I don't think it's, I just think at the end of the day, to be extorting any kind of emotion from children is cruel. I don't care if it's screams or laughter. I think like, it's cruel, like it's fucked up because they're making a business of it. Like these kids are up, laugh, like, you know, I mean, and then to see Mike work his material out, like imagine being
God, that is such a brilliant, the kid's reaction, like when Mike is doing his little bits and the kid is just looking a little bit concerned, like, oh, what a brilliant scene. I mean, I
So
think
brilliant.
for me, the thing that this signifies is like they, you know, if the rules in this world are the monsters have literally no other way to get energy except from like children's emotions, if that's the rule of the world, then like them figuring out that like laughter is 10 times more powerful. And also, like, they're no longer making children suffer. Like, in a way, it's like a net positive for everybody, I think could be argued within this world. It's like if they're making kids laugh, that's a positive thing for the kid. And they're getting the laughter for energy, and that's a positive for them. So it's like if we are accepting that their only power source can come from children, then this is the better option.
Yeah,
I'm an apologist for this film. I will hear no criticisms of it whatsoever.
No, that was part of why I was asking so deeply about the world of the film. And then, but you know, I have to push back a little and say, like, if we found out that like this world that everyone thought they knew they were in, based on the propaganda of like children are toxic, like that to me deserves, like, everything should unravel in this world. And I kind of wish they followed the thread a little more of like, if they're lying to us about that, do you think maybe they're lying to us about like the children's screams being the only resource to power our energy? Like maybe it's because
if they made this movie for a bunch of leftists in their 30s, then that would be the ending. It's like they would unravel it a little bit more. I think
I think kids would go with it, to be honest.
Totally.
Like, I think kids would be down. Like, I think a lot of kids would be like, yeah, I'm down. Like, you know, obviously they're not fully going there, but maybe in the seat. But like, that was the part that was like so exciting. You're like, you have so much to just question now.
Oh, I just came up with a great idea for one of our awards. I'm going to save it, but yes.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Can't wait to hear.
There's so much there for them to question. And I'm like, and I do think like Sully and Mike could really push this radicalization further. And I do think sometimes that happens politically. Like people get stuck in this space of like a better, happier capitalism and get, you know, you see them have a moment of like, oh, I'm seeing everything for what it is now. We were lied to, but not kind of going a step further because it's like, here's an easier solution.
Something else just occurred to me on this thread in terms of like going from screams to laughs is what we said before about how the scarers are, in the beginning, they're like the big, scary, hulking figures, and then the kind of assistants are the smaller ones, is like at the end, there's kind of room for everyone, and the discussion kind of turns into like, there, you know, what is your role in this new society, and like how are you contributing to the movement? And so, you know, like when these like assistant guys, you know, like, oh, this is great, when Randall's assistant takes off his regular glasses and puts on his Groucho glasses, like that's such a lovely little moment. And, you know, Mike was never going to be a scarer. He's only the one who's going to get the barcode slapped over him on the magazine cover. But now, you know, he's able to use his skill set to contribute to this kind of like refreshed world that they have there.
Yeah, he can now too can get the capitalists some money.
Yeah, sure. Exactly.
Yeah,
screams
he now
some
can
giggles.
validate his own existence through the surplus value that he creates for the company.
Sure.
I mean,
sure,
to me,
sure.
my nightmare is like a giggle off, like a laugh off. Like, I don't know. I guess I just have an aversion to being forced to laugh. Like, that makes me very, like, that actually is a different kind of torture than, like, screams. Like, the idea of they're just, because if they're keeping the system, you're like, who's making the person laugh the most? Like, that sounds like my worst nightmare.
There is, yeah, when Sly lifts up his clipboard and it's like, I can't remember what it says, but like there's just an arrow going up. It's like productivity over time, and it's like business has never been better. It's like ultimately, yeah, it still is a business and they still are profiting off of something. And but something, okay, wait, I did want to shift gears 1 second because I don't think we talked about the scream extractor.
We did not. No. Glazed right over that.
Yeah, so we talked about, you know, the evil villain being evil, but like his whole plan with like revolutionizing the scare industry is like, if you dehumanize a population enough, this is what happens, is like torture becomes normalized, and that is the scream extractor. And, you know, his line, with this machine, we won't need scarers. He is like private equitying the like energy source of screams. Like he's trying to gut the workforce and, you know, kind of go, I guess, directly to the energy source, but in this really nefarious kind of way. And it's like, that is almost that's the most like, you know, bald-faced like evil that we see in this movie. And like we were watching, my friend goes, he wants to torture children, and I was like, yeah, because he sees children as expendable and like scary and toxic and whatever. And so he's kind of the most, literally, like, his brain has been poisoned by the corporation. And he is, yeah, the one thing about Randall is like, he's literally no redeeming qualities. And yeah, he gets his comeuppance at the end in an incredible scene. Like there's a gator in the house and they get his ass with a shovel.
He has my favorite monster power.
Yeah, it's such a good
like,
one.
I am like, yeah, he's nothing redeemable other than I'm like, if I had to be a monster, I'd kind of want to be him. Invisible, you know?
It's a good one. Yeah. Chameleon.
And he's also kind of one of the scares that we see, one of the only scares who is like not this hulking figure, but is literally like a small slimy guy, and or like, you know, is seen as being slimy. He's a lizard, he's not actually slimy, whatever, but like he probably in that sense feels that he has had to work even harder and has kind of been the underdog because he's not naturally this like hulking thing. So the kind of scary part comes from within from him, because he really is that scary and evil.
That's a very good observation. Yeah.
Thank you. I've seen this movie a million times, as we know.
Yeah, but you're so right about the scare extractor. It's also like how Marx writes about how automation is employed by the capitalist class to then either push labor out or squeeze labor even harder. And you're right. Waterloo says, like, with this machine, we won't even need scarers. It's fucked up. It's a fucked up machine. That'll kill kids. That'll kill kids. I don't think they come out of that.
No. Because we see that moment where Randall's assistant, whose name is escaping me, which is really embarrassing, but you know, the scream extractor is used on him only for like 2 seconds, and he comes out of it and he's, you know, white as a sheet and almost passes out. It's like, damn, he almost got. They're trying to use that on kids. That's really scary. Yeah, I guess the one thing about Randall is like he's a villain with like 0 redeeming qualities. So I guess that, you know, makes us as the audience okay with the fact that he gets banished forever into the human world and like gets hit with a shovel and whatever. But I guess just like villain wise, you kind of want to understand a villain and be able to relate with them at least a little bit. And he's just like, literally, this is black and white. He is evil. Full stop.
Yeah, and now that you pointed out, like, just like how Sully is sort of this NFL-ish character, and he's like, you know, there could just be things you could read into that where you're like, oh, I don't like that. Like, you know, that then just like from a child brain, you're like, good guy, big, friendly, bad guy, lizardy, and we don't need any more of that shit in this world. Like, don't
Stop
like
body
that.
shaming, Monsters Inc. Stop reinforcing the patriarchy, Monsters Inc.
Yeah, and just like
Another note that we'll pass
slimy
along.
dinner. Yeah, well, absolutely.
Did either of you have anything else you wanted to hit before we go to the awards?
Oh yeah, when Water Noose is like, she's seen too much. You both have. Okay, did I have a note or did I just write that down? I'll kidnap 1,000 children before I let this company die. Oh yeah, it's like, so when that is revealed at the end to Roz, who turns out has been undercover, that's a little unclear to me. Like, who is Roz working for? Like,
Right.
She's the head of the CDA.
yeah, but is the C? But like, what it like? Does the C? That's a little murky to me.
I interpret the CDA as some combo of the CIA, the World Health Organization, and ICE.
Yeah,
You know, just
sure.
like the worst of all things. They just show up to like oppress or cart people away. But yeah, Roz is the number one.
But the CDA, so it's like, you know, as we said before, it's like they are reinforcing the narrative of like children are dangerous. But it seems like the CDA actually does think that children are dangerous. So Roz being undercover for the CDA, what was she undercover for? You know, like, but she was like, oh, if I had known it went all the way up to Water Noose, blah, blah, blah. I guess I'm just unclear, like, what she was trying to uncover, you know, what that was all about.
Let's figure this out right now. So if there's an energy crisis happening in Monster World, you have to imagine the CDA is a governmental department, governmental authorities. So maybe they are like, wherever monster government is like, we got to go into Monsters Inc. and find out what the fuck is happening with the energy crisis, because we're not sure we're getting the straight from Water News.
And maybe it's just because I was thinking about this through the lens of like the privatization of electricity and energy sources in Puerto Rico, and like how those kind of boards, like, to me the CDA is like a government board that has sort of privatized energy into this Monsters Inc. And like, yes, like you're saying, Frank, exactly, like they're kind of fucking up. But it also leads me to believe that like this is sort of helpful to them to be like, yeah, this is the fuck up. Don't look over here. No propaganda to see over here. Like, yeah, replace it with laughs. It's all good. Just keep the capitalist machine rolling and serve up. Like, they were like that bigger, like they're kind of like working with the board, right? Because the board is just sitting there comfortably, like smoking their monster cigs, cigars, watching the whole thing like, oh, cool. They just replaced laughs with screams. Great. But we all still get our cut.
Yeah, but CDA literally stands for Child Detection Agency, I think, right?
Yes.
So it's like if they're focused on detecting children, but she's undercover. I don't know. I'm still a little.
You're right.
What's that about? What's going on there?
Well, that's what I mean. I think the CDA is not like who they say they are either. Like, I think they're.
Okay.
I think they're like there to kind of watch this company, and like she
Okay.
was probably like, yeah, what's good? Like, he was anxious. Like, that's why I think that the CDA sort of has more power in this bigger scheme, and they're probably working with the board and all of that.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. I can see that. Yeah.
It's a lot of questions.
Another thing they're going to have to address in the sequel when
Yeah.
when they listen to this podcast.
This is why my roommates were like, "Shut up!" Like, we are just beating this to death.
All right, well, I think it's probably time to give this movie some awards.
Hell yeah.
So, Cassie, we have 3 awards we give to each film.
Great.
Our first award is Best Politics. So this goes to the character with the best politics in the movie.
I guess Sully. I think he would have to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Mike takes longer to convince. There's only so many characters. Which, by the way, this does not pass the Bechdel test, this movie. Another note that we're going to send along.
That's true.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would say Sully by the end of the movie, I think. Yeah, after his radicalization. Not really a clear articulation of politics from any other people in the movie.
Weird.
Monsters.
Yeah, I don't think anyone gets there really, but Sully gets the closest, and then drops the ball.
All right.
He gets so
we could also
close.
just give it to Boo because she is a child.
Yeah,
and
true. Yeah.
She's a
children and
child.
children and animals usually have perfect politics, we say.
Yeah, so Boo followed, and I'm sure Sully would want Boo to have it.
That's true.
Aw.
All right, so our next award is worst politics. This goes to the character with the worst politics in the movie.
I think I'd give it to Waternoose over Randall because Waternoose really knows. He knows everything that's going on, and he is
He's
the
bad.
masterminding it. He does not care about how much violence he enacts on this population. Whereas Randall is just like, he's just like a resentful, petty shit. You know, he doesn't really have like a politics other than like, I hate Sullivan.
And children, because he doesn't know. Yeah, he doesn't know any better. Water News should know better.
Yeah, and you got me thinking, Cassie, about Randall and what's going on. I feel like there's just more to investigate there.
He's been indoctrinated the whole time.
I'm gonna throw Roz into the mix because of our last bit of diving in there. I think suspicious as fuck. CDA is suspicious as fuck, and you're like the head of it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The head of the CDA is definitely up to
She's
say the fair shit.
complicit. Yeah, for sure.
For sure. All right. And our last award is Better Supporting Character. Goes to the supporting character that this movie should actually be about. Or something you'd want to see with a supporting character. So the idea that I had earlier was I know where they already did Monsters University, the prequel. But we're talking about how does energy work in the monster world. There is a prequel history about Monsters Inc., the Waternoose lineage, where other monsters in Monster World are discovering other forms of energy, like steam power, like fire, like combustion, water, wind turbines. And the Waternoose family is systematically having them all killed.
Yeah.
To maintain their grip on power.
This is like some Chinatown shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Wow.
So that's the movie that you'd want to see. That's the thing that you would like, the story that you want to be expanded. That's what the award is for.
Yeah, it's just, it could just also be for like your favorite character. But this was like my pitch. This is my pitch. It's a pitch session, and there are no bad
Got
ideas.
it.
And no bad ideas.
That's good, Frank. That's
Yeah. They're
Yeah,
like
you
the
both were stunned into
Stacklers or the
silence.
Murdochs. Yeah, I was like, what the hell?
But that feels right. You know what I'm saying? That feels right.
Right.
And then the CDA and Roz, like a young Roz is there too. Like that feels like it will all make everything make sense.
Yeah, Young Roz is definitely a fun one. The one, this is not as like involved, but I do love what's his name? Like George, maybe? It's like the older monster who got with the 2319 twice. He goes, keep the doors coming. I'm on a roll today. It's like, I love working with that big guy. He's so friendly and big. And it's like, I want to know his story,
Yeah.
A little peek into George's home life.
And I want to follow more Randall too.
If we could have saved him, like see his backstory and see where it all went wrong for him.
Yeah, but I think this could be maybe incorporated into this like Chinatown-esque Monsters Inc. prequel.
That's an expansive world.
Because it's like, there's something up.
Let's see the
There's
spec script
something
on it.
Up. Yeah.
We've got a pile of spec scripts from doing this podcast.
I'm
None of them
sure.
are written, but I've registered
all
them
up
all
here.
with the WGA. So don't
Really
even
good.
think about it.
Wouldn't dream of it.
Cassie, this was a blast. Thank you so much for being here and picking this movie. So glad
Surprisingly, like, unbelievably political. Like, I feel like we did such a good job of just extracting all the politics from this. And I did, when I was watching, I was like, how's this gonna go? But, like, this was deep.
Every little bit that we can squeeze out of it, we did.
This was deep.
And
Oh,
to
just wait
everyone
until
who,
we do.
until we do Camp Rock.
I know nothing about Camp Rock.
Oh
so
my god! Next time
I'll
I'm
be
on the
going in
pod, we'll
fresh.
have to do Camp Rock. It's a weird one. It's
Sooner
a
than
weird
later,
yeah.
because you can't live much longer without seeing it, Frank.
Yeah, honestly.
okay.
You should
I didn't
rip
realize.
it tonight, if I'm being honest. If you're cancel your plans, watch Camp Rock 2008.
I actually have to watch a different movie tonight for this very podcast. Coming soon, or actually, it'll be released in the past. We already watched it. You already said it. We
Double
did it. It's fine.
feature.
Yeah. So, Cassie, the last thing we like to end with is we ask our guests, is there something that you do in your everyday life where you get the chance to practice your anti-capitalist values? And that could be something as simple as like a daily practice to an organization you work with.
Yeah, recently I've been working with DSA and the Zorwan Ramdani mayoral campaign through making videos. Just last night we had a big old comedy show fundraiser for the campaign, and that was really fun and really gratifying. Canvassing is also a great time. So if you're out there listening and you're feeling really sad about the state of the world, I would encourage you to just pick something and do it.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the
Hello and welcome to Movies versus Capitalism, an anti-capitalist movie podcast. I'm Rivka.
And I'm Frank. And happy Academy Awards week to you, Rivka. Did you celebrate? Did you observe?
I was no, I'm a bad actor. Did not observe.
I mean, honestly, you're more of a bad podcast host, but
I really I did try. I knew it was happening and I tried. I turned it on and I was like, I can't fucking do it. I'm so fucking bored.
That's fair. It was.
There's also, I was like, I got White Lotus, I got Severance, I got Survivor. I have just all of a sudden.
Damn, that's right. I forgot that Survivor
Love is
came
Blind,
back.
The Baldwins, Hilaria,
Wow.
and
Wow.
Alex' new reality show with 7 kids, 4 dogs, 4 cats, and he's going to trial. There was just a lot of other things. I was like, I can't sit through this. I gotta watch.
That's fair. It was a nearly 4-hour telecast. And I was one of the many people who tried to watch it on the Hulu streaming service, only to discover that it didn't fucking work for like the first hour and a half. Did you hear about any of this?
No, tell me.
Oh my God. Yeah. So for the first time ever, it was streamed simultaneously on it was broadcast on ABC and then streamed on Hulu. But for the first hour and a half, almost 2 hours of the telecast, did not work on Hulu. Hulu was just like, oops, sorry, can't play, don't know what happened. And then not only that, at the end of the telecast, so it finally came back on, but then at the end of the telecast, right before Best Actress, Hulu was like, this live event has ended. And it just stopped.
God.
It just stopped. It was like, the live event ended. Sorry, it's over. It already finished. Didn't you know that it finished? So yeah, Hulu really shit the bed on this one. But I did watch all of the important clips and moments so that we could talk about them today.
Same. Caught up.
Yeah, caught up. So what are your big takeaways from these Academy Awards, these Oscars?
I think the biggest takeaway is like the sort of like the chill of the beginning of like people. It's just like, oh, right. People are going to be very, very, very afraid to say anything. There's like nothing said about Trump.
Oh, yeah. No, nothing really. No.
No, not a thing.
As far as I saw. Yeah.
I think it was. And so that gave me a little bit of a chill because it felt very like, yeah, it just felt.
The closest they got was Conan made a joke about Honora doing really well. And he was like, and that's a movie about people standing up to powerful Russians or something like that.